Wholesome facts that'll make your day slightly better, part 1. When a human sees a puppy, a chemical called dopamine is released in the brain. Elephants also release dopamine when they see people, meaning that they think we're cute in the same way we think puppies are cute. There's a YouTube channel called Dad, How Do I that teaches young people things that would typically be taught by a father figure. From how to change a tire to how to tie a tie, fans of the channel think it's super helpful. When you're on a walk with your dog and they stop to take a dump, you may notice that your fluffy friend is staring at you as they poop. They do this because they're in a defenseless position and they're trusting you to keep them safe. There are more public libraries in the US than McDonald's. After the horrific events of 9/11, a small Kenyan tribe known as the Maasai people gave 14 cows to the US in their support. The man who played Mickey Mouse ended up marrying the woman who played Minnie Mouse, meaning that true love actually exists.
These sisters had a competition to see who could sleep with their dad first. This is Samantha Kirshner, and in 2018 she met her father. She was 17 at the time and always wanted her father in her life. She even met her half-sister and formed a close relationship with her. By September of 2018, Samantha and her half-sister were battling for attention from her dad in the most unexpected ways. That's when they decided to have a competition to see who could sleep with their father first. On September 10th, Samantha slept with her father for the first time, and in the following month, they ended up getting married. Samantha's mom was clueless about the marriage, and she ended up notifying the police that Samantha's father had inappropriately touched her. Samantha ended up admitting to police that her and her father had a sexual relationship, but they did not believe that they were actually related to each other. Police then asked Samantha on why she would even do this, with the possibility of this actually being her father, and she stated it was because she had a jealous competition with her half-sister. DNA tests later confirmed that that was actually her biological father. Police then arrested Samantha and her father, Travis Fieldgrove. In 2019, Travis was sentenced to 2 years in prison after pleading no contest in incest charges. Travis stated his actions embarrassed him and he deeply regrets sleeping with his daughter. His lawyer stated that he had a brain injury and was not a high-functioning person. In June of 2019, Samantha got a 9 months probation and served a 22-day sentence.
There is an unfortunate update in a case that I covered in August of 2023. If you click on the comment, you can go back to the original case. But as of this morning, March 7th, 2024, police in Tulsa, Oklahoma have said that the remains of the missing man, Timothy Van Meter, have been found. Timothy was last seen on March 18th, 2023, leaving his home, and he was captured on CCTV footage doing that. Later, they would find his vehicle, but were not able to find out where he was. The remains of a person were found here in this general area, and I guess this is called Mohawk Park in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Apparently, where he was found was in an area that was very difficult to initially get to, and that's why people weren't able to find him, during the course of the initial searches. 2 individuals were just out there searching for deer antlers, and they noticed something kind of, white in the distance, and so they used binoculars to see what it was, and to them it looked like a body, and so they would go to police, and then the body was found and recovered and was then identified as Timothy Van Meter. As of right now, they have stated that foul play is not suspected, so this may have just been a tragic accident. But his cause of death, as of me filming right now, has not been, released. In a way, I guess this does end, the family's suffering, because sometimes the not knowing can be a lot worse than knowing what happened. But now they will be able to lay him to rest, and hopefully they can soon find peace.
If you have one of these 5 names, then I'm sorry for you. I hope you don't have one of these names. But if you know someone who does, you should share this video with them as a warning. It has indeed been proven that these names attract spirits 10 times more than usual, both good and very bad ones. In 5th place, we have the name Karen, which attracts good spirits. The 4th name that gets a lot of spiritual visits is Noah. In third place, there's the name Ethan, which is visited by many spirits. In second place, the name Emma is one of the worst names, perhaps for bringing a spirit into one's home. Before revealing the top spot, comment your name, like, and share this video. The name that brings the most spirits is Kevin. There are 5 other names that are not good for welcoming spirits. If there are enough comments and likes, maybe I could save you. But for now, it's really not certain. Good luck.
Things that are scarier at night. Corn mazes.
They never bother me. I feel happy and fine. Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
Playgrounds.
I don't need a lot. Coffee's only a dime. Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
Be careful. If you come across this group of people, run away as far as possible, really. I'll explain everything in the video. But before that, don't forget that I can only protect my subscribers who have commented on the video, shared it, and added it to favorites. The people you see here are not Serbian ladies but Serbian men, and they have plans to conquer the world with their ever-growing numbers. It's terrifying to know that they are already more than 10,000 in the world, gathering to turn this world into a dystopia. What's funny in this story is that their leader is a woman named Marcy, and she is also the leader of a malevolent group called Legion of the Dark Veil. So, a piece of advice: if you see her or her group, run away as far as possible towards a group of people or into a very well-lit place.
He cannibalized his 90-year-old grandmother's body. 90-year-old Ruby Wallach had her 37-year-old grandson, Dwayne Wallach, live with her in her home as a caregiver in Richmond, California. He would often help with daily activities or running errands for her. On June 20th of 2020, 911 dispatchers had received a call from Ruby's daughter explaining to them that she had found her mother bleeding on the bedroom floor. Dwayne was also in that same room, covered in blood. When officers arrived to the home, that is when they saw Dwayne straddling his grandmother and using his fingers to rip off her skin. Dwayne had ignored orders to stop, and this resulted in him being tasered by the police officers. But the taser had little effect on stopping the attack. Instead, he continued to pull away at his grandmother's flesh, but this time even more aggressive. 4 officers were able to pull Dwayne off of his grandmother's body after an intense struggle. Dwayne was dragged out of the home, but he continued to kick, scream, and punch at officers. Dwayne was then rushed to the hospital for treatment of his wounds. Police had later discovered that there was an ice pick in the bedroom. Dwayne used this object to stab her to death before cannibalizing her body. In 2022, Dwayne pleaded a no contest in his grandmother's murder and mutilation. He was given a plea deal which sentenced him to 28 years in prison. Rest in peace to Ruby Wallach.
Fascinating.
This man has been sentenced to 100 years in prison after doing the unthinkable to his daughter. Tony Valles is a 66-year-old from Helena. On the 10th of July 2022, he was at home with his partner Heather. Tony's 8-year-old daughter Ariana and his 18-year-old son were also at the house at the time. Suddenly, 2 women entered the property who he believed were evicting him. He flew into a violent rage and grabbed a weapon from his bedroom. At this point, he began shooting. He shot Heather and she fell to the floor, and then he shot at his son. His 8-year-old daughter tried to escape and run from the terror, but she was hit with gunfire. She was on the stairs when she was hit by a bullet and she fell back. She tragically died after being rushed to hospital. After his daughter's death, Tony stated, "I'm sorry for all this. I can't undo what I've done. The pain and the misery will last a lifetime, and I'm sorry for all that." Tony was sentenced to serve 100 years in prison.
I was the youngest offender ever here, and now I'm the longest one to have ever spent as much time here. Yeah.
That's your tag, yes?
Yes, I've got the shortest DOC number.
Which year did you come to this prison?
Which year?
In which year?
75. 1975.
1975.
Yes. I've never driven a car. I never went on a date. Never had a checking account. I was never able to be a mother. But a lot of these people in here that are younger, I'm mom.
Do you have many family connections? Do people come to visit you?
My sister does with her kids and her grandkids. So I still have a connection out there. Yeah.
How do they regard you? What do they think of you and of your situation?
Oh, they want me to come home. They want me to
That hurts.
Yeah. My two nieces, they went and broke their piggy bank and took their money to their mom, my sister, and said, "Is this enough to get Aunt Cindy out?"
Gosh.
Yeah. And that's what makes me emotional.
It's very difficult to me to talk to somebody who's been in this situation for 38 years when I look back on my life and think all the things I have done in that time.
Yeah.
And to some extent yours has...
It's in a box.
You came into prison at age 16. What for?
Murder. I committed murder.
Imagine getting out of jail, just listening into the news and hearing that you're wanted again. 30-year-old Corey Hastings was given the all clear and released from Sydney's Long Bay jail. Later that day, he headed to a shopping centre and all would have been fine apart from the fact that he was accidentally released. Early the next morning, Hastings himself rang up police after seeing media reports they were searching for him. Police put this down to an administrative mistake following a court appearance, meaning it's likely he won't face any further charges. But this is not even the first time something like this has happened in New South Wales. This situation resolved fairly quickly, unlike the case of Randolph Convery a few months ago. Convery had been jailed for offences including assault occasioning actual bodily harm, and he was accidentally let out 5 months early. 2 whole days after he was released, New South Wales police issued a warrant, and he was only located a week later at a country club. In this case, he was charged with escaping lawful custody on the grounds that he knew about the warrant, according to police. But in terms of Hastings, who did hand himself back in, he's gone back to jail, and Corrective Services New South Wales are investigating how this happened.
They made the mistake to summon the devil itself. You won't believe what happened next. Stick around till the end, it's hair-raising. In the dead of night, in a moonlit cemetery, a group tried an unthinkable ritual, whispered chants, flickering candles, and then, out of the shadows, a child appeared, dressed all in white, eyes blank, standing eerily still. As the winds grew colder, the child began to move, footsteps echoing on ancient gravestones. Want to guess where this is heading? Drop your wildest theory in the comments, and if you think you can handle more stories like this, hit that follow button now. Just as suddenly, in a blink, the child vanished into nothingness, leaving nothing but chilling silence and a group frozen in terror. Legend says once you see the child, there's no going back.
This woman accidentally got trapped in the back of a police car, and this is one of the worst deaths imaginable explained. This was 56-year-old Clara Paulina, and her husband was a longtime Miami police officer. Officer Paulino was working a night shift. So around 1 p.m. on August 21st, 2020, her husband was asleep in bed, so Paulino went out to his police car and was attempting to get something, but it's unclear what she was attempting to get. And when she climbed into the back seat, somehow the door closed behind her. I don't know if you've ever been in the back of a police car, but because arrestees always try and escape, they have mechanisms not allowing anybody to get out of the back seat, and it automatically locks from the inside. So Clara was completely trapped. And it was a blistering 95 degrees outside that day. Clara didn't have her cell phone either, and her husband was asleep. And the bar in a police car separating the back seat from the front seat was also locked. She could not reach through to honk the horn and alert anybody. So she sat in the back of this police car struggling to get out. She was banging on the windows, and they could tell she was because when they found her, she had bruises all on her wrists and hands. And they also found Clara's fingerprints all over the back seat, meaning she was touching every surface trying to figure out how to get out of this. And with the heat rising and her hyperventilating most likely, she may have also been losing oxygen. And sadly, hours later, around 5:30 p.m. that same day, her husband and her son found her dead in the back seat of the car. She had died from a heat stroke, and it's more than likely this death was very excruciating and long. It's almost as if Clara was literally cooked alive. And that's an awful situation I could honestly never imagine. Just imagine being that helpless in the back of the car when the heat is 95 degrees and likely knowing I'm going to die from this. This is absolutely horrifying, and I also wonder who shut the door. Or how did it shut? Nonetheless, rest in peace to Clara.
This 19-year-old TikToker was murdered while filming a TikTok video. This is 19-year-old Anaya Womack, a woman from Jacksonville, Florida. Anaya was really active on her TikTok and her Instagram, and she really wanted to grow her following. In May of 2023, Anaya was brought to a hospital and dropped off with a gunshot wound in her stomach. After she was dropped off and left there, she died, and 135 days later, the story finally began to unfold. So Anaya's family had fought tooth and nail for justice, for answers. They just had no idea what had happened to her. I mean, how did she end up with that gunshot wound? Who drove her to the hospital? Well, eventually Mariah J. Clayton, a 20-year-old friend of Anaya's, was arrested. So at first, Mariah and the man she was with claimed that they were driving down the street when they somehow stumbled across Anaya and decided to help her out and bring her to the hospital. But obviously the police weren't buying that, and the man eventually broke down and told the police that he had gone over to an apartment complex to purchase marijuana, and that's where he and Mariah had found Anaya with a gunshot wound. They claimed that once they got to this apartment, Anaya told them that she had shot herself and she needed a ride to the hospital. But when police started interviewing people who were present at that apartment on the night of this shooting, a whole different story began to emerge. Apparently that night, Anaya and Mariah had been in the bathroom in the apartment filming TikTok videos. And one witness stated that when they went into the bathroom, they saw Mariah holding a large black rifle, waving it around, all while Anaya was filming her for her TikTok. So at one point, this male witness said that a man entered the room. He said they needed to be careful with the rifle, they shouldn't be playing with a gun, and he tried to take it from Mariah. But Mariah allegedly said, "I need to check something first." She pulled away with the rifle in her hand and it accidentally discharged, shooting Anaya in the stomach. And what it seems like allegedly happened is that Mariah and the others that were in the apartment then clamored and tried to hide all of the evidence. And they were the ones that ended up driving Anaya to the hospital later on. But they didn't stick around to tell investigators or anybody who they were. And obviously they hadn't been truthful about what really happened that night the entire time. I'm eager to see how this case turns out, and I just hope that Anaya gets the justice that she deserves.
This video is about the strange disappearance of Kenny Veach. He was a Las Vegas resident, avid hiker. He would film a lot of his hikes on his YouTube channel, and he was obsessed with aliens. He loved leaving comments on Area 51 videos. He had been doing this for over 20 years, so how did he go missing? On November 10th, 2014, he set up for an overnight trip to explore the M-shaped cave. There's a lot of lore surrounding this cave, that beings are in there and it's supernatural. So obviously with his interest in Area 51, he went to the cave. And of course, he took his camera to document it and post it on YouTube. He told his family it would be a short overnight trip, but he never returned from that. His family and his girlfriend filed a missing persons report. There were 30 helicopters and people on foot searching for him, and he is still yet to be found. But let me talk about what he had to say about the cave. This was not his first time going to the cave, but it was his first time really documenting it and going deep inside. He said when he entered that M-shaped cave, his body began to vibrate. And the deeper he went into the cave, the more his body vibrated violently. He got scared and hightailed it out of there. The reason he brought a camera this time, he wanted to record his experience if something happened. So my theory is one of two things happened. He either died in the supernatural cave from an animal or something, or maybe he fell. He probably hurt himself, and without reception, he couldn't call for help. Or two, this cave is supernatural and something got him. But it really seemed like he completely vanished. They can't even find his remains. No bones, no nothing. Let me know what you guys think about Kenny Veach's story in the comment section below. And as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
A national state of emergency has just been declared after a mysterious ship of unknown origins ran aground and started leaking massive amounts of oil. No one tell America. Emergency workers in Trinidad and Tobago are scrambling to clean up the oil. But the strange thing about this whole situation is that no one knows where this ship has come from, who it belongs to, how it capsized, or even what it was carrying. People are now just referring to it as the ghost ship. In fact, when it was sighted on Wednesday, the government said that the ship was sailing under an unidentified flag, and it made no no emergency calls before overturning, which suggests that there wasn't anyone even on board. And because we know so little and there's been hardly any media coverage, people have started going wild with speculation online. But the worst part is that this oil has turned white sand and crystal clear water into black sludge, and it has damaged a number of reefs. This is a massive blow to the island's economy, which depends on tourists, resorts, and hotels during Carnival.